So, this Kotoka guy, thank you very much, team, for bringing this in. Kotoka no nie. Akwana wakana asem na amaya just say, oh, ni papa biya mano. This is the Kotoka guy. Yani our time. Yebeye show no 9:43. Yejinim, no worries. Team, stay with me. This is the Kotoka guy. Wena, because of this guy, Entina, Paul Adumochi Mutiti TV, so they are trying to run down this guy. Or she soja ni enim na yire ene ne mbagina nenim oso mo mbesene no ne nko war ena soja ni say premises no war no reason ti ayeko war no faso ni so onko akwa we twituo bo ni tirim tuo e wo ne yire ne manim akwa we hwe nanim aya mo ko kan mu history go and read go back and check your history. These foolish people. Now Kwame Nkrumah, let you see. I am not Kwasiampo, TV so she suit Tantime, Mozambique TVB. Emmanuel Kwesi Kotoka was a Ghanaian military officer, best known for his leading role in the 1966 coup that overthrew Ghana's first president, Dr. Nkrumah. The coup you know. Kotoka no nim nyanse die coup. Kotoka not on a backroom staff. The amount of Kotoka be prominent is that Kotoka was the one who was doing the killings. There were other generals ahead of Kotoka who were smarter and intelligent than Kotoka, who were doing things in a way, almost a way they were a smart military man. Kotoka was a bullion. They were using him like a dog. When they want somebody to go shoot someone, they will call him, go and kill this one. And it's not Kotoka, he is not any intelligent person who can sit and plan coup on to me yet. Now, short summary of his story. Early life and career. Kotoka was born in 1926 in Alakple, in the Volta region of Ghana. He joined the Gold Coast Regiment, that's the Gold Coast Regiment, and later the Ghana Army. The Gold Coast Regiment and the Ghana Army. So in 1926, the Ghana Army was called the Gold Coast Regiment. Now, and rose through the ranks, earning a reputation as a disciplined and professional soldier. He trained both locally and abroad. 1966 coup. On 24th February 1966, while President Nkrumah was on a trip to Asia, Kotoka and other military and police officers carried out a coup d'etat. So let me tell you, Kotoka himself wasn't the leader of the coup. The reason why Kotoka became more popular was that he was the one doing the killings. Kotoka murdered soldiers, his colleagues. He murdered them. He was hungry for power. He just wanted to recognize. No, Otisa punching. Go and read your history. Go and read your history. Edubuahin, 1992. Edubuahin now contested MPP now. Professor Edubuahin. Omo change Ghana history because they wanted it to fit into their stupid MPP, JB Dankwabuzia nonsense. Edubuahin mo damage. Because those books we read in junior high school, JSS, social studies book, Edubuahin, MPP, Edubuahin, so they decided, it is all pick our books now. Near reading those times from the 90s, Urbana, social studies, culture studies now. Every single thing about the book, it has silent majority of the tribes and made Ashanti-4 and Akan tribe, it made it superior because those guys wanted the Akan tribe or the Akans to be superior than any other tribe in Ghana. And it's not the culture studies, the social studies books they read, everything was pointing to Ashanti-4, Akan-4. But you could see, so National who read Ghana's history very well. Akan-4 played a very small role when it comes to putting together our democracy. When it comes to tribe, when it comes to Akan-4 and Ashanti-4, you can give it to them when it comes to tribal war. That is fine. But you see, we allowed some people to mislead majority of us in the name, say, they were professors. They were writing our history. Those are the people who did us damage. Edubuahin never liked J.J. Rawlings. Edubuahin never liked the AFRC. Edubuahin, when he was writing the social studies books, they always concentrated on the 1979 coup. You know why? Because that was what they were able to instill in the heads of Akan-4, especially Ashanti-4. And sometimes, young people now people like us, there were other coups before J.J. Rawlings coup 1979. They centered the bad part of our history on J.J. Rawlings because they wanted to print a picture for everybody to think, say, no. J.J. Rawlings, no, on the year coup, a BC Ghana da. Now, so before J.J. Bay coup, no, near coup bear 4 or 5 in Ghana. Pasiafo, Motrana TV so, Mobasa Ghana for Jim say, Obie Jimmy. Now, when you read the story, 1966 coup, on 24th February 1966, while President Nkrumah was on a trip to Asia, Kotoka and other military and police officers carried out a coup d'etat. They accused Nkrumah's government of economic mismanagement, authoritarianism, and corruption. The coup succeeded and brought the National Liberation Council, NLC, to power, with Kotoka as one of 8 key members. NLC, one of the Yantin Menjia. NLC, one of the when the coup happened, who was the beneficiary? Wasn't it Buzia? Who is part of Buzia? I'm going to start here. And only I'm going to start here. So, who were the financiers and the beneficiaries of that coup? It was Buzia them who were behind that coup. Buzia, not Otitogo, and not church books. He was writing things against Kwame Nkrumah. JB Dankwa Dems, and internet Ekufu Adomo, sa MPP for we know. So we study a history now. They were the ones who quickly step out of the country, seek for asylum, and start to write bad things about the nation. The same time, now Buzia eti Togo, a church of bad things about Nkrumah. No, now JB Dankwa was working for the Americans. You say Kwame Nkrumah is a what? Is a tyrant. Now JB Dankwa kwasi abe is ananka Nkrumah nyama na antananto. O de che no kra. Kwame Nkrumah na nyame wona kum o de che JB Dankwa. Na nko so de ngina second no twa ne ti. Na o de che Buzia mo se bebia mo obi amon ka ho. Kwame Nkrumah na nko so o chi JB Dankwa gina circle. Na o twa ne ti. Na o de che omo se mo na mo tete ti abro che church on kwasi asem fa Ghana ho no mo nka ho because mo ba this same thing will happen to you. Anke si anka nko se wenke ante. You are foolishly sitting on radio and saying, hey, Kotoka is a hero. JB Dankwa is a hero. My bottom. This guy, this foolish traitor. We can go and pull CIA. Document Omankasa a declassify it was in there that JB Dankwa was in prison. When he came back, he went to the US Embassy in Ghana. The new ambassador had come in. He did not even know JB Dankwa was on the payroll of the Americans, and he was demanding for salary. Say, Okodemuno, the salary amba. You are calling this guy a hero. You people are foolish, eh? Mujin say Ghana and Jimmy and a small group of foolish boys and girls will mount TV and radio and try to change our history because everybody wants to be disciplined. Everybody wants this country to move on because we don't want to engage in this petty, dirty kind of conversation. Now, a dirty riffraff like Paul Ademoche. Now, Paul, does he know how Ghana came by? They always twist history. They always tweak history. They always change history. What's your pay you at the Ghana? Our biggest problem was when we introduced education, formal education, culture studies, and social studies by and no na edubuahina or contested ma NPP in 1992 said that was when they got the opportunity to force us to believe their lies. It became so difficult. Young people like us when we were growing up, near you say JJ Nkwana Yeku Ghana. Near you say AFRC, PNDC for Nkwana any purpose. And so before that, all the coup that happened. Kuwa etu Kwame Nkrumah no e benefiti Buzia. Buzia no ni JB Dankwa na ye adwuma bom. Buzia no ni JB Dankwa na nam. NLM yete no menhia NLM. Ansana sa nkwasiafo we de neba. So you people should not sit there. Now we can kwasiasem and we allow you. And it's me say democracy sometimes is not good for black man. Democracy, it is not good for black man because any democracy power and they wouldn't even have the space to talk like this on radio. Ekrobia, and now you are speaking ill about Nkrumah like this. Abra, you are not the only person who basically lived through Nkrumah's regime. Anka ye chawutia to actioning. Yatiana Bavo Koto yi £700. I got 7 minutes to be at assembly room. We didn't want to say anything because you see, sometimes no nyoma bi ntina na me din because I person hu se munim nyansa na se mo agimi edubu ahen ha kwasha mpanyin na owu ye na one cause problem we nyina ade bia ochro se nkurankan bia osku bia it was a jandam, it was an agenda against the NDC, PNDC, it was an agenda against JJ Rawlings. Coup where Kotoka, and who was the beneficiary of this coup? Wasn't it Buzia? Na Buzia Wayne. What is the Ghana and Kwasi Asem? Now, team, look, Mamecham coup na in Kwasi Afo yen. This is the coup. Watch it. Mama Kwasi Afo the radios Paul Admotre. Kwasi Ampenya went to Mancho Basso or by Jano, Jimmy when I'm a This is the coup. Watch this.
By 1964, mutters of discontent within the military and police had coalesced into a secret plot against Nkrumah's government. One of the early conspirators was John Willie Kofi Harley, the Inspector General of Police, who confided his intentions to Kotoka that year. Kotoka agreed to cooperate with Harley, sharing the belief that Nkrumah's increasingly autocratic rule and economic mismanagement were steering Ghana in the wrong direction. However, attempts to stage a coup in early 1965 did not materialize. The conspirators struggled to win over Major General Stephen Otu, the Chief of Defense Staff, who remained loyal to Nkrumah. Likewise, other senior officers were wary of treason, so Kotoka and his compatriots realized they might have to rely on more junior officers to carry out any takeover. In July 1965, Kotoka was transferred out of Accra, possibly by Nkrumah's design, to become commander of the Army's 2nd Infantry Brigade, based in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. This move, however, proved fateful in an unexpected way. In Kumasi, Kotoka became close friends with Major Akwasi Afrifa, a bright young officer serving as his brigade major. Afrifa harbored his own grievances against the regime and soon joined Kotoka's growing conspiracy. Together with Harley and a handful of others, they started crafting a plan to topple Nkrumah. By late 1965, they decided to act at the earliest opportune moment. President Nkrumah's foreign policy inadvertently handed the plotters a cover for their clandestine preparations. In late 1965, Nkrumah announced that Ghana would contribute troops to an African force to fight against the white minority government in Rhodesia, today's Zimbabwe. He ordered the military into a state of readiness. Kotoka astutely used this mobilization as a pretext to reposition troops and conduct exercises near Accra, thereby moving forces into place under the guise of training for Rhodesia. All the while, Nkrumah's security apparatus remained unaware that these maneuvers were part of a coup plan. Timing was critical. The conspirators agreed they would act when Nkrumah was outside the country, to minimize resistance and avoid unnecessary bloodshed. In February 1966, an opportunity arose. Nkrumah departed on a high-profile trip to Asia, with stops in Beijing and Hanoi on a peace mission related to the Vietnam War. The plotters set the coup for dawn on February 24, 1966, just days after Nkrumah's departure. Kotoka also understood that success hinged on neutralizing the military commanders in Accra, who were not yet in the know. He managed to secretly convince Colonel A.K. Akron, the commanding officer of the 1st Brigade in Accra, to join the conspiracy at the 11th hour. Furthermore, they roped in a respected retired Army officer, Major General Joseph Arthur Ankra, as a figurehead to lead the new government once Nkrumah was ousted. Ankra, who had been involuntarily retired by Nkrumah months earlier, was seen as a popular and stabilizing choice to front the regime, since Kotoka and Harley preferred to wield power from behind the scenes rather than serve as head of state. At approximately 6 a.m. on 24th February 1966, Kotoka and his co-conspirators struck, executing what they had codenamed Operation Cold Chop. Major Afrifa led a contingent of soldiers to seize key installations in the capital, including the broadcasting house of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Once the radio station was secured, Kotoka made a dawn broadcast to the nation announcing that the military and police had taken over the government in order to save the country from economic chaos and one-party tyranny. This radio address was the first that most Ghanaians heard of the coup, and it signaled that the long-feared and long-rumored takeover was a reality.
This is the story. Kotoka na mo kana asem we. A dirty man. Janabro ni ka chechire mu nyina ne say Kwame Nkrumah at a point ohun say or say or reshuffle eye military high command for no around the nation. Mistake Nkrumah yan say move Kotoka kwa Asantememu. Kotoka kwa siampen o ya hunani. Okodo Asantememu no ena okohia another military officer ye friend free fa kwa siampen yi bi. Asantini okohia no ena almost psyche na adwene say oman say remember these were the same group of people a free fa no na ne nananom ena call queen ho ka kire queen say na omo asantefo no pese omo teme ho. Queen ka say I cannot severe on to me twamanim entem ho enti saa free fa kwase ampanyi no na ne nananom ka saa group no ho na omo pese the Queen of England ete Ghana free asante free Ghana ho na queen say magimi na mo nko amodi mo so amodwen say mo betuma survival menye enti time Kotoka ko asantememu no ye post the call ho no and okohu those people who had harbored those kind of bitterness omo nananom ne bi wo military nim and almost started a political Kotoka say you can be part of us. That is where the indoctrination started. They started creating that in the head of Kotoka because on one no agunani awe Jimmy na adwini nye adwuma ordinary ntuma ko bo mo ntuma no. So what they did was edumre bi na Nkrumah kase ewiase no opesen koboa na Ghana dia ewiase koso no yes soja for no bi dey yetumi mo better training etu kwan ko abrechi peacekeeping ade into started our project no. And what happened? That is when they got the opportunity to start recruiting the likes of them that Kotokani efri fa san kwasiafo no sa people with their old animal mentality san kwasiafo no. They started recruiting people from the army. And now the bedroom crying almost started epic young ignorant and and they took their time. They planned the coup in 1965. Kwame Nkrumah every Ghana so oko Asia. That was when they decided to take over the country. But some say what was the reason for the coup? Almost na Ghana yeding. The way Nkrumah was ruling, it was obvious to me for any clear-cut evidence. And by say Nkrumah was a dictator. Nkrumah was trying to re-strategize the country. There were people in the country who were trying everything possible to assassinate Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah ko Burkina Faso slim. No, ne baumia papa enenam. This same Buzi and Nkofo, they wanted to assassinate him. So you expect the president to be sitting there like a fool and not tightening things up. How many assassination attempts na Sankwasi Afowe etra or Kwame Nkrumah life so many. So you expect Kwame Nkrumah to be sitting there like a Roman father and be hugging everybody. He was supposed to make sure things were tightened up security wise. So when Nkrumah decided to make things tight and make sure the people living in the country felt safe, these foolish people did not understand. They wanted their way. And Nkrumah took Asia. In 1965, no planning 66, and no mutu abani guye. In the name we say Ghana yedin, nyoman koye. Nanka Ghana na Nkrumah dictator. Anka mo kwam Kotoka ne sa kwa siapenye free fana na omudi eye sa so yanka munyanke ngumanto antwene. Huh? And what they did was that they had to overthrow Nkrumah's government. All in the name say Yempan Nkrumah, you catch the queen say also the part of the country and one Ghana, we are not going to make it governable. The intention was you best say Chrono Buzie Tukwain Akwatina Togo. He was sitting in Togo, writing articles upon articles, selling it out into the world and making it look like Kwame Nkrumah was a tyrant. All because say nya mo bi nya ebeko go de nkanko corner. The mentality. JB Dankwa, his partner, was also working for the Americans. Kwame Nkrumah nipa bako trying to save a nation and trying to help the world. This is the real story. So Abuawe onye nipa bia e was say the D2 bibia so. What happened then? Mr. P, Tim, I saw you just sent me something. Kotoka be ye coup. Now the question is Kotoka ye coup no, who did it benefit? The people it benefited, who are they? It benefited Buzia. It benefited JB Dankwa. Who were those two people? These were the people who were always hunting Kwame Nkrumah to kill him. So who was the mastermind behind the coup? It was this NPP people. Anything omona na nom kwase afo abegina TV so Nkrumah was a dictator. You cannot prove with anything. But you see, they want to create an impression. They want people to think, say, Nkrumah ya bonibi. So when you read our history books, Yeni, you started reading culture studies, social studies, you know. Papa na your friend Edubuahin, Professor Edubuahin na opesa obedi MPP enim ebe contested JJ Rawlings in 1992. Edubuahin, on na MP before first flag bearer. On na opesa contested presidential candidate. On na opesa or contested JJ Rawlings because the hatred open one of the most tribal bigots in Ghana was Edubuahin. Those guys were the guys who wrote our books. So what they did is book no Troy, create impressions that JJ Bonsam. So all the coups that happened in 66, before 66, and all the way, they did not talk about it. They briefly mentioned it in our culture studies books. And then they went all the way down to 1979. And then they started detailing it. And making you, the young person in the classroom, a Ghana history, JJ Rawlings looked at like a monster to you. So they made it more horrific. They made it more graphic. Into utie story teacher ni kanya in your head na jeje kutatuo and wo wura dam no bo we mutimutuo no abo we timutuo no twa weti. They created it in the minds of the people. They printed it here. Into nyina we were like into jeje ye cool and oku nipa, but the reality is that Edubuahin they had an agenda. They wanted to paint Rawlings and the PNDC and AFRC. They wanted to paint them in a certain way because that is where the problem started. Kotoka in 1967, a young military officer shot this guy and killed him. When you say Kotoka 1967, he was shot. He was shot by a young officer. Now Kotoka a hero, and at the Nkoye in a year. Why would a young officer in less than a year shoot to kill him? Because he's a monster. The young people realize that this guy has destroyed the Ghana. Yes, say. This is what the story is. Mr. P, do you have something for me? I can show you, team. So let's not sit down and entertain this foolish talk. TV, so Kwame Nkrumah was this, Kwame Nkrumah was that, Kwame Nkrumah was this. The beginning of the destruction of Nkrumah's legacy and JJ Rawlings it was from 1992. Time I ma Edubuahin more chance to write our social studies and culture studies books. That was the beginning of our end. In the book, so we study our books now, and one of these days I know one of the teachers will mail one of those books to me. Me pay Class 6 culture studies books, any social studies book. Me paso those P6 and P5 books unim de wom. P5 and P6 social studies books, any culture studies books unim de wom. Everything in our culture studies textbooks was about accounts. Hardly did they mention Muslims. Hardly did they mention Northerners. The only thing that you could see about Northerners, the 5 pillars of Islam, Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr is done. When you go into our books, it's all about the whole thing was geared towards making the Ashantis look better than any tribe in Ghana. Without due respect, I don't hate Ashantis. But you see, sometimes let's face the reality. Some people try to twist the history of this country. At a point, people from different tribes did not even believe in their own tribes because books have shaping the minds of the young people in the wrong way to the point where they did not even believe in their own tribes. Not our school, not your friend Dikwa no ferry, because they had been created. Your creative BBA to system we say, I don't know when you didn't say, I don't know a sa, I don't know a fro, dovedu, I don't know a fro domeluvo, I don't know a fro. They created it. Your bought a pepe needing, and I said 10 needing or class no BS because of the way they shaped our minds were shaped, where they crafted our minds. When you see a Jimmy, who is this idiot? Who are these fools? We are delving into this matter. And we are speaking our mind on issues. But for some reason, decided to say, let us build this nation. About power, and this thing came back again. Some people wanted to look better than other people. Some people wanted to underestimate some tribes. Ekufuor to me who on him, I was sorry. But who on him for why should it be like that? Why should we lower the country to that point? Me say, I know I'll get teachers now more Ghana. No? I need class 6, class 5, class 6, JSS 1, culture studies and social studies. Maybe Tana me kai book you'll be shocked. Obeka say Edu Buahin, Edison could be a boss up a din and in the group no choice and kwasia book no. Me say, at a point, Pepe ni akwara 10 year kwara jina school near Bonidin, market register, not offering. I went to international school throughout my life. Me man ko saito da. And I always made sure say me nafu fo nyina ko saito, so I'm able to understand. Me nafu fo nyina ko saito. I was just privileged to be in international school throughout my life. Inti me, I had both of two that experience. I had it. Into me, I've never underestimated human beings. And see, oh yeah, I didn't probably shower. I was so tears, so do point to me, I was so tears here. Because someone going to Ghana. Who is this guy? Huh? Who is Kotoka? Let me show you another thing. Thank you very much, team. I'm going to show one last one. Now, Faye, Bimfa, show no and womb. Mama, I charge you and some of the catch them Ghana. So let us not allow these polydemocracies and those foolish people. These are ingrates. They have nothing to do with their lives. They are tribal bigots. Let's not entertain them. Let's not entertain these people. Team, do you want me to show this before we go on? Maybe team, no more time. They have all the time on this planet. So video they can pull it for me. Team, did you send me the next one? Almost send me for Winchamo. And this is about what, team? They said this next video is where Kotoka was shot. Is where Terminal 3 is now. Baby Kotoka, a young military officer shot Kotoka, killed him. And let me show you the video where he was shot. Because I'm paying you when I'm in the airport. So, team, thank you very much. I can bring that in now. Akwana airport where you born to. I didn't know the to airport so.
The motivations behind the coup were a blend of political and personal ambitions. It is true that many within the rank-and-file Army and Air Force had been uneasy with the coup against Nkrumah and yearned to avenge his overthrow. However, Lieutenant Arthur's own statements suggest a more ego-driven motive. According to later testimony, Arthur bragged that he wanted to be the first lieutenant to have staged a successful military coup in Africa. Planning for Operation Guitar Boy took place in utmost secrecy over weeks, if not months. The conspirators knew they lacked the open support of high-ranking officers, so they concocted a bold deception. They led the soldiers under their command to believe that a broad, countrywide military uprising was underway, involving many units, not just their own. On the night of Sunday, April 16, 1967, under the pretext of a special training exercise near Ghana's border with Togo, Arthur secretly assembled over 100 soldiers from the Ho-based Recce Squadron. These men were made to understand that come morning, all the Ghana armed forces would rise to oust the NLC, and that their unit was simply spearheading a well-coordinated military-wide coup. By dawn, Arthur laid a ruthless blueprint for the regime change and called for the elimination of the entire NLC leadership and all senior officers of the armed forces. He then split his rebel force into 4 assault teams, each assigned to capture a vital location in Accra. One squad was tasked with seizing Ghana's international airport. Another was to take control of the Flagstaff House, the military headquarters. A third team targeted the Ghana Broadcasting House, and the fourth was directed at Christianborg Castle, the seat of the government. Leading by example, Lieutenant Arthur personally led the detachment that stormed the national radio station. In the early confusion of that morning, Arthur's men overcame the small security detail at the broadcaster. Eager to declare victory, the lieutenant rushed to the microphone and announced over the radio that the NLC government had been successfully overthrown. This premature proclamation proved to be a critical mistake, as it alerted loyalist forces and the public that a coup was underway, while the outcome was still far from decided. Arthur's broadcast claimed that a revolutionary new regime was in control, but even as he spoke, fierce skirmishes were raging at the other target sites. At Christiansburg Castle, 2nd Lieutenant Osei Poku led a raiding party in an attempt to capture General Ankra and other council members. The attackers infiltrated the castle grounds amid sporadic gunfire. However, Ankra narrowly escaped their clutches by slipping out, reportedly climbing over a wall or through a side exit, and went into hiding as loyal troops converged to defend the castle. The rebels thus failed to nab the head of state, depriving them of a major bargaining chip. Meanwhile, some of the heaviest action unfolded around Flagstaff House and the nearby military installations, where General Kotoka was located that morning. There, Lieutenant Yeboah's squad attacked and broke through the defenses of the Army headquarters, with the intention of eliminating Kotoka and any senior officers present. A firefight erupted in the compound and nearby areas. Amid the chaos, Kotoka's personal bodyguard, Staff Sergeant Emmanuel Osei Grunchi, fought desperately to protect his commander. But he was fatally shot in the scuffle, as were a few loyal soldiers trying to repel the attackers. General Kotoka found himself cornered. Accounts suggest that he tried to flee towards the airfield, which is adjacent to the military headquarters, once it became clear that his position was overrun. In the end, Kotoka was captured by Yeboah's men near Accra Airport. In an act of brutality, Yeboah personally murdered the unarmed Kotoka, later confessing at his court-martial that he first stabbed the general with a bayonet and then shot him repeatedly. By the time Kotoka's body was recovered, he had 10 bullet wounds and multiple stab injuries, a clear sign of overkill, driven by either rage or a desire to ensure the feared general was truly dead.
This is the story. Obi coup in less than a year. His own young officers stand against him. Ask yourself why. Why? I didn't tell you coup. His own people didn't turn against him to kill him. Ask yourself why. Because the motive behind that coup was wrong. The people he used to overthrow Nkrumah later found out that he was being used. Kotoka himself tried to correct things. They said no. Because you see, there were some people in there who were still those people, their people. They still didn't want Nkrumah back. You know the story. Kotoka was supposed to be, now go say Trinity. Now go say Nijina Circle, near Trinity. And then go say Afobiti TV. So Ebeka just said Nkrumah was a traitor. He was a tyrant. He was a dictator. Ko Africa na ko here President Ben it must survive multiple assassination attempts. Eche Kwame Nkrumah kwasia into go so no pa na ko aye jollof na ekuta no de nam dwom. We kufuad we kurampo no o se obi the kitchen knife ebe ye ku. Hwen kwasia de kufuad ye on Ghana. Ekufuad kwasia mpanyi we ya ye de aduane si fridge so an nsanka no. Ono kura be di president no o se o te say obi the kitchen knife ebe ye ku. What did he do? But you people, you talk and you act as if somewhere more. You just don't understand why Ghana is here at this point. You still don't believe. You say, "Mo papa no ma kromfo mo nana no ma kromfo na." They were not ready to abide by rules and regulations. They were not ready to serve. They thought to say, "Ye nyina no ye mbehye omase," because some foolish akonwa bi omudi. Inti ye nyina mbehye omase. They did not come to that conclusion. Say, "I was ye nyina chichire man no." That adwene ne do mutirim no. Omode sha omo matrimu no ene na at the point ebe breedy nkwasiafo to say free famo jimmy foolish people. A whole political party is rallying around a name called JB Dankwa. Sankamuni munyansa ankamwe delete sadino every mo party nim. Somebody who went to jail and right after jail went to the US Army, US embassy in Ghana asking for his salary. Ejuma be na your mom not on bent to amom. Na oton bent to amom. And I know we watch you people and you fool yourself on national television because Ghana na full. Obi atumi can be enough and wedi. And I'm say sometimes democracy is not good for the black man. Go to Burkina Faso and see a young man is trying to turn the country around. How many coups no we face? Then there's a titan BBA, that's a good political party bia, or say or a tyrant. Now by no so abobi too. You are foolish people. Musa Paul adomo chire mo ne Kofi Bente musa nkwasiafo mo ye mmoa. Mo nim nyansa. Mo dwen say it's about you people and your tribe. You think it's about you people and your selfish greed. It is not about you people, it's about us. It is not about you people again. The whole thing is about us. And when it's about us, we will have to make that decision. And the decision we've made is that our airport is not supposed to be named after a criminal, a thug, an assassin. We are not supposed to allow a fool like Kotoka's name to be on our airport. Finito. That is what J.J. Rawlings, he did 2 coups and he succeeded. Busa didn't succeed here because the heart behind that coup, the people who were behind him, the nation was behind him. And it will succeed here, no? Or you 2 coups or succeed here. Everybody was out there jubilating. Kotoka coup, one jubilating Ghana. It is only a group of people. Why? It is because it was going to benefit Buzia and benefit JB Dankwa and Kwasiafo. Mo say Jimmy Ohu. Mo say you better Ghana ha. And mo Jimmy for no, we give you small power na mo Jimmy mo ho. Tetenan ke twitwa mo nyina mo tia to atwene. Mo lucky. Democracy is not good for black man. Democracy is not good for black man. I'm telling you. Black man democracy too much and oh Jimmy. Sometimes you need to be tightened a little bit. Because Mumu Bebreno, you don't know what is going on. Yet be jirem, fama omoni amfa jirem.